This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to DRTSPR show. This is Dr. Tangella Shivaprasad Reddy alias Dr. TSPR. Namaste, Adab. Hello and a warm welcome to Guru Garu, Professor K. Purushotham Reddy Garu, Gurutulilu B.V. Subba Garu. Actually, in fact, we were waiting yesterday for our Guru to join us because Gandhi inspires us. And the way he led his life and the way he led the freedom movement and the way he lived his life.
వినపడతలేదు వినపడతలేదు
మీకు వినపడుతుందా సుబన? Sorry for some technical this thing. ఇప్పుడు is it okay అన్న?
సుపర్ణ మీకు వినపడుతుందా ఇప్పుడు బాగానే ఉంది మధ్య మధ్యన పోతుంది
ఆ,
సరే
మీ దగ్గర
ఇప్పుడైతే
కొద్దిగా
బాగానే ఉంది
రైట్.
మళ్ళా పోయింది
అది కొద్దిగా అక్కడ మీ దగ్గర ఏదో చిన్న ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చినట్టుంది అన్న, కొద్దిగా నెట్వర్క్ ఏదో ప్రాబ్లం ఉంది మీ దగ్గర. ఒక్కసారి అది సరి చేయండి అన్న. సో దిస్ హాస్ ఇన్స్పైర్డ్ అస్. నౌ టుడేస్ టాపిక్ ఈస్ ది గాంధీస్ పర్స్పెక్టివ్ ఆన్ సస్టైనబుల్ డెవలప్మెంట్ గోల్స్. సుస్థిర అభివృద్ధి గాంధీ గారి సూత్రమనండి. గాంధీ గారు పాటించినటువంటి ఆ జీవిత శైలిలో వారు భారతదేశం గురించి కన్న కలలు, ఆ స్వాతంత్ర పోరాటం మొదలు ఏ విధంగా భారతదేశం సుస్థిర అభివృద్ధి వైపు పోతుంది, తన ఆలోచనలు ఏ విధంగా ఉన్నాయి. ఎందుకంటే గ్రామాలు పట్టుకొమ్మలు అన్నారు అభివృద్ధికి. సో అటువంటి గ్రామాలు ఈరోజు నిర్వీర్యం అయిపోతా ఉన్నాయి. ల్యాండ్ యూజ్ అంటే వ్యవసాయానికి ఉన్న భూమి మొత్తం మాయం, రియల్ ఎస్టేట్స్ కింద అయిపోతుంది. మళ్ళీ తినడానికి తిండి వారు చెప్పినట్టు సుస్థిర అభివృద్ధి గ్రామాల నుంచి మొదలు కాబట్టి మాయమైపోతున్న వేళ మళ్ళీ ఇది తీసుకుంటా ఉన్నాం. ఎందుకంటే ఇక్కడ G20లో ప్రతి ఒక్క లీడర్, అమెరికన్ ప్రెసిడెంట్ దగ్గర నుంచి అందరూ కూడా రాజ్ఘాట్కు వెళ్ళి పెద్ద ఎత్తున గాంధీ గారి గురించి వారు అక్కడ చర్చించడం, తద్వారా G20లో రాజ్ఘాట్ గాంధీ గారి ప్రమేయం పెద్ద ఎత్తున కనపడ్డది. కాబట్టి G20 కానీ లేకుంటే వేరే ఇతరత్ర దేశాల్లో ఏదైనా అభివృద్ధి అనేది గాంధేయ మార్గంలో పోతేనే ప్రజలు వారు సుఖంగా జీవిస్తారు, సస్యశ్యామలంగా ఉంటుంది. సో G20 is a living example for us how development should be, because all the leaders queued up to Rajghat and they were all proposing Gandhian way of life and development. That is why we are just coming out with the show. I'll just show a feature of Gandhi's paper, just a minute, and then we'll get into the discussion. Sustainable Development Gandhi Approach. This is a paper by Indu Gupta. Sustainable development means to fulfill the present needs without compromising the needs of future generation. Mahatma Gandhi's way of living is the best example of sustainable development for world. In Mahatma Gandhi's words, earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not any man's greed. Let me again reiterate. Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not any man's greed. And sustainable development means fulfill the present needs without compromising the needs of future generation. This is what we have been echoing through this channel. Safeguard your present so that something is left for your kith and kin in the future. Otherwise, it will be a big chaos, it will be a big zero. And this is a big paper, and I'm not going to dwell into this, just showing how even Mahatma Gandhi's ideas sync with today's sustainable development goals. He is very clear here. He says the core aspect, the nucleus, is environment. Then comes the social fabric. Then comes the economic aspect. So the environment, the symbiosis with nature, how you lead your life, from where you get food, oxygen, and all other needs. And then the social aspect, how do you sustain your living with others in the society. then the economic factor, how you gain. So these are the core aspects which he was dealing and dwelling on this. Generations to come will scarcely believe that such a one as this ever in flesh and blood naked upon this earth.
Walked upon this earth.
Sorry, walked upon this earth. Generations to come will scarcely believe that such a one as this, ever in flesh and blood, walked upon this earth in regards to Mahatma Gandhi. This was from Albert Einstein on Mahatma Gandhi. Sorry. Then conclusion, and I'm just quoting quotes of Mahatma Gandhi. That's all. Be the part of change you want to see. Permanent good can never be outcome of untruth and violence. Live as if you were to die tomorrow and learn as if you were to live forever. It should be inborn responsibility of every individual and institution to play a role for social work. I am not against wealth, but against wealth that enslaves. So with this, let us straight away get into the discussion. Yes, Subbanna, is an inspiration.
Thank you, Dr. Shivaprasad Reddy garu. Yesterday, the country and the entire world celebrated Gandhiji's birthday. Also, Lal Bahadur Shastri's birthday, and recollected their philosophies, their principles, practices. The most important thing what I felt is during the pre-independence time, the pre-independence struggle, it was not just merely a struggle against the colonial rulers, but there were several, inbuilt mechanisms in the freedom struggle, wherein several issues which we are discussing today under the name of sustainable development goals, the hunger, the health, poverty, gender equality, water sanitation, and probably the energy in a smaller, limited. But most important thing is the freedom struggle sensitized and made the people citizens of this country in empowering on their resources. Uppu Satyagraham, which is known. So today, nobody is looking into the status of resources. And we started with a big bang, that roti kapda makan. Roti gone to Reliance, kapda gone to Arbindo, and makan has gone to many DHL and others, and nothing is left with us. The land is going to the corporates. The sea still remains, but from cooperative to corporate sector. And the country from a rural to urban scenario. Our own state, Telangana, with 32 district headquarters, 32 districts, and our governance, present government, proudly announces that Telangana is the only urban state in the country. Are we prepared for this transformation? Do we understand this? And what is the status? We all say, very interestingly and ironically, we all said we should support small farmer, we should support small business. All small, small, small. And where is the small farmer today? He doesn't even get 5,000 rupees from the bank. And what happened to the institutions today? The institutions have become parasites on the system, and they are living with the charity and arms of the ruling governments. Let us look into all the 17 SDG goals. What exactly is the Gandhian perspective? Gandhi, right from the day one, he was promoting an economic activity, a decent employment, a decent self-employment through charka. He promoted sanitation. On the 2nd of October, we see everybody right from all these chief ministers and the prime ministers with a big boom sweeping the roads and other garbage and all. But the spirit is to recognize and respect the dignity of labor, the sanitation workers, health. Yes, it's because of Gandhian thought and Gandhian philosophy that social preventive medicine came into the existence in India. It is the Wardha Medical College, a pioneer institution, medical institution, which promoted the SPM. Even today, it stands as a landmark. Today, we don't see and hear anything on the social preventive medicine. Gandhi himself took the care of Parachuri, who was affected with uh, leprosy. Parachuri cottage is just adjacent to Gandhi cottage in Wardha. He thought, he insisted that Parachuri should stay nearby so that he can overlook and take care of him. Gender equality, yes, the Charka movement really empowered the women in the rural areas through the Charka. Economic growth, infrastructure, reducing the inequalities. But the most important thing, what I feel is contribution on emphasis on the panchayats, the three-tier government system. We have not, we have totally failed in the first 5 years. We were confused. We were in a state of confusion whether to follow American economy or Russian economy. And in between, we also got sandwiched with the British policies. Yes, we did make certain, establish certain milestones in the field of science and technology in the later periods, but totally neglected very roots of this country. The knowledge, the management regulation of natural resources at the panchayat level. Each panchayat had its own regulatory mechanisms in protecting their water bodies, protecting their grazing lands, protecting their common lands. Everything vanished through centralized mechanism. So where are we heading? With undermined institutions in the country, with totally collapsing democracy, though we claim that this is the largest democracy in the country, it's a big mockery. We had to bring a true democracy. So these are the issues. Peace. Today, the UN peace forces, they use AK-47 to restore the peace in the world. The
Wow.
biggest irony. Okay, and some countries who champion themselves, in keeping the peace, they charge the victimized countries that we have come here and restored the peace. Please pay us the fees. So peace has become a business. Peace promotion through gunpoint is a ridiculous thing, which happening now. So we need to look into it. Today, the inequalities have widened. When 1 acre costs 100 crores, in any middleman dream of owning a piece of land, the
35 lakhs
country
per area.
the country started with, you know Bhudan movement. Today, Bhusale movement, which is the only finite resource on the earth. So nothing is free in this world, and inequalities have widened in the entire world, but particularly in our country, and more so in our state itself. How do we make people to at least come together and discuss? పోరాటాల గడ్డ, ప్రశ్నించే గడ్డ అన్నది పూర్తిగా నిర్వీర్యమైపోయి అసలు ఏం మాట్లాడలేని పరిస్థితుల్లో ఉంది. మేం చెప్పిందే వేదము అని ప్రభుత్వాలు చెప్తున్నాయి. Under these circumstances, even the Gandhian institutions, who claim a lot in social engineering and social intervention, I see very little interventions of them today, particularly in the areas of, Gandhian philosophy and SDGs. And I'm proud to invite Professor K. Purushotham Reddy garu, who for the last 38 years or 40 years was championing for the cause of ozone depletion, resources depletion, and continuously moving with the people through people's movement. All his movements were Gandhian movements. I remember, and I was one of the participants in Sangareddy's highway, Bombay Highway Gherao. 8 hours the Bombay Highway was stalled. No lathi charge, no violence, and no abusive language by the protesters. That was the beauty of the entire struggle he promoted in this state, along with some other, senior members like Dr. Kishan Rao and Captain Rama Rao later period. But it all started with Professor Purushotham Reddy and Dr. Kishan Rao. At the same time, I think last 10 years, he was talking on Millennium Sustainable Development Goals and later sustainable goals, organized, and he himself delivered in several universities and public forums. I feel it's privilege and pride for me to invite Professor Purushotham Reddy garu. Anna,
Yeah.
we look at the SDGs and trying to look through the lens of Gandhian philosophy. Today, institutions have become puppets. Partnerships and synergy is only to make money on the name of development. We build partnerships to make money. 50-50, 60-40. Okay, let us share that. Even G20, unfortunately, though it claimed and spoke, projected climate change and all, ultimately it is the road through the Himalayas to Middle East.
Ultimately,
Okay,
destroying the nature, destroying the nature.
and solar business. So we need to look into this when the people are being pushed into below the poverty line, and governments, political parties take the advantage of it, of this inflation, and comes out with all freebies. I will give you this, I will give you that. Are we not making the community citizens and pushing them under the dependency syndrome? Can the system take this? When you look at Europe and America, the unemployed, scholarships and all, you find similar lethargy among the youngsters to work, to stand on their own. Are we not pushing our younger generation to this? Are we not pushing them to intoxication, liquor, drugs, everything? So I request you to analyze and give us the uh, your views on Gandhian philosophy on SDGs. Professor Purushotham, please.
Yeah. Thank you, my friend Subba. Actually, Subba has covered the entire gamut. What all I wanted to tell, he has already covered. And in fact, it makes my work very, very, very easy. Actually, that is the way, you know, it should be that the person who introduces the speaker should also introduce the subject and the context. So, while thanking Subbarao Garu for making my job easy, I wish to, however, as a political scientist, I wish to start the importance and significance of Gandhi at the outset of the lecture for only 5 minutes, particularly. We all are grateful to Mahatma Gandhi in India because he was described as the father of the nation. Now, here there is what is known as a nation building, and that too, Mahatma Gandhi's work, if we look, say, from 1920, slightly before, but 20 to 48, for about 28 years, he was trying to weld India into a nation. And that's the reason he gets the title Father of the Nation. Earlier, we were all divided into more than 560 princely states. And India never learned to make a common cause. People of India's loyalties were divided into more than 560 parts. Hyderabadis were grateful to the Nizam. Coastal Andhra and Tamil Nadu, they were under the Britishers. So the loyalties of the people, for them, the king or the queen or the British Raj, that occupied a priority of place. We were not connected. There were hardly any newspapers, no internet, no television, and the only link was a few railway tracks laid not to transport people, but basically to transport the natural resources outside India. And these railway tracks were connected to Calcutta, Bombay, Chennai seaports, and from there the wealth of India was drained out. Under extremely difficult conditions, I am not going into the details of the freedom struggle, but it's important to understand educating the people to make a common cause, people of India. So I am reminded of his return back from South Africa, and after coming to India, Gandhiji was given a hero's welcome in the Bombay harbour, and almost the entire political elites of India, they stood in a line only to extend a hearty welcome to Mahatma Gandhi. The reason this point is very important, we need to understand that Gandhi was already a global personality before he returned to Bombay or India. His work in South Africa is something we need to constantly be reminded. We should never forget that all his ideas of civil disobedience, they were put into practice, they were tested in Africa. When we look at the film Gandhi, we get to know many things. But since Gandhi was also a very important component in our syllabus in political science, and we were teaching along my senior teacher, Professor Raj, one of the greatest exponents of India's freedom struggle. And along with him, as a student, we were all with him and trying to understand Gandhi. So Gandhiji, after returning to India, he went to Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Who was in Pune then. Gopal Krishna Gokhale advised Gandhi and told him very clearly, look, it has been several years now that you left India. And India it's continuously undergoing a lot of transformation. Sensitization of a very big order is continuously manifest. And therefore, Gokhaleji advised Gandhiji to travel in the Indian Railways third class compartment across India and try to meet as many people as possible and try to understand the rising aspirations of the teeming millions of people in this country. So the journey began, and as Gandhiji was traveling, he was constantly on the move, and the word spread. Please follow this. There were no media, no print media, no TV, nothing. But from word of mouth, it spread that a dedicated soul by name Gandhi, who achieved great success in South Africa by non-violent means, he is traveling in the railways. And the word would spread that Gandhiji, 1 or 2 days before, and to every railway station, that Gandhiji was coming. So with people with a lot of problems, suffering or suppression, oppression, denial, displacement, they would gather in the railway stations and only to get a glimpse of Gandhi. And it was a very soothing, it had a soothing effect on the people. So finally, when Gandhi reached Bihar, particularly a place known as Champaran, there thousands of farmers had collected, and in fact they did not venture to give a representation. but they only raised Gandhiji Zindabad, the typical Indian way of greeting their leaders. And with they respectfully stood on the platform, not in hundreds but thousands. Gandhiji got down from the bogie railway and he talked to the people. And one of them explained the problem that these were indigo farmers. They produce a color, blue color, and they were highly exploited by the Britishers. And not only exploited economically, but they were treated as worse than animals. So when Gandhiji came to know about their suffering, he immediately, uh, started moving with the people. And on that day, he became an activist of a very serious type in India. Till then, Indian political parties or the political personalities in India, they were not of this type. They were great people, no doubt. Each one had their own way. Dadabhai Nauroji, Purushotham, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Madhav Govind Ranade. They were the first generation sensitizers. And second generation, we have Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai, Bipin Chandra Pal, and Sri Aurobindo. But in addition to these eight famous names, we had very dedicated youngsters like Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, Chandrasekhar Azad, and Bharin Ghosh, and several others. Several great writers like Bankim Chandra Chatterjee and social reformers. All these, plus there was one great saint, that is Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and his student Swami Vivekananda. Vivekananda went to America, he attended the Parliament of Religions, and he gave the very first speech, became a global success. His name was there in almost all the papers in the world. And even in India, the word spread that Swami Vivekananda, what all he spoke in America was very slowly was sinking into the Indian minds. And people in this country who were till then suffering from inferiority complex, they suddenly realized that their culture and their religion is of is much greater, much more ancient, and much more significant, thanks to uh, Swami Vivekananda. So when finally, after about 7, 8 years, when Swamiji returned from America and his visit to America and Europe, he was given a hero's welcome. This is very important because for the first time, India arose as one person to extend a hearty welcome to a grateful India. It extended a hearty welcome to Swami Vivekananda. So we should recognize that all these people played an excellent role, and it was Gandhi, for the first time, a leader stepping out of the train and moving with the masses, identifying himself with them. This happened in South Africa, but since he was already a master in those techniques, I call it as the technology of protest. In South Africa, he was a great success. He was recognized by the world. He had many followers in almost all the countries. The struggle that he initiated in South Africa was a global success. And people started, in every colony of the British and the other European countries. the French, the Danes, the Mexican, I mean Spanish, all these, they had from the Portuguese, all these countries had colonies, and Gandhiji's struggle in South Africa slowly caught the imagination of the intellectuals in the colonies. So, from that exalted position, because he knew how to connect to the people, Champaran becomes the starting point of a new wave of struggle. So while he was moving with the people, now I come to where my friend Subba commented extremely well. Gandhiji's technology was that he would be, as already explained, he was traveling and he would be moving from village to village. So I'll give you one example. In certain villages in Maharashtra, Gandhiji, while undergoing a Padayatra, he enters a village and then he stands in front of a small little hut. So naturally, the people who are already gathered, they would ask, uh, "What can we do?" So Gandhiji asks for a broom to sweep the roads. So they immediately struggle to get a broom and they give to Gandhiji. And Gandhiji begins, sweeping the roads in the village. But when a person of global importance, a person who is already a success story, when such a person comes to the village and begins sweeping or Swachha Bharat or today's Swachha Bharat or cleaning up, what happens is then everybody there, all those who were accompanying Gandhi, they would madly rush and each one would take a broom with the help of the locals, and the whole village would witness Operation Cleanup, Swachha Bharat, in the real sense. That would continue for about 1 hour or 1.5 hours, and then everybody would congregate in the central place of the village. Whatever the big opening is there, wherever it is, so they would all gather, and Gandhiji would begin his meeting with a prayer. This is very important because he is again, Gandhiji was not preaching rituals. He was trying to weld the people together. So what was this prayer? Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram, Ishwar Allah Tere Naam. So he joined both the Hindu and the Muslim names of gods. And Ishwar Allah Tere Naam means that is everybody coming together and praying. So that also indirectly worked miracles because the Britishers were trying to divide India on communal lines and Gandhiji was trying to weld and once again trying to bring the people together. After that, he would tell them, he never gave a lecture against the British Raj. He would continuously tell them how to be clean and how to protect themselves from diseases. Because please remember those days, cholera, smallpox, plague, and so many other contagious diseases, they were taking a very heavy toll. And it is true that Warda Medical College did a great service. And I also agree that particularly in India, SPM or community medicine got a great push from the work of Mahatma Gandhi. So I'll come to the sustainable SDGs. This being the approach of Gandhi, then Gandhiji would tell them about education and the need for the parents to send their children to the school. And he focused on local language. He focused on the small technologies which will give a meaningful, what we call right to work, which would enable the people to make a living. And his overall attitude, that is where he speaks about that there is enough in nature to meet the needs of all, but not sufficient to satisfy the greed of the few. And he was one person who was always trying to distinguish between the need and the greed. Anything greedy means that we want to accumulate something beyond our need. And that means we are actually taking away somebody's need. So, concentration of wealth in the hands of the few was always opposed by Gandhiji. And also, it's important to note that as he was traveling through the villages, he was very, very clear that the people should come together and raise their voice against the loot of the natural resources in their villages. Because this wealth was going to UK. All the big teak trees, all the timber was cut and taken away. And as you know, friends, European colonization took place basically because Europeans had very strong navy, and for that purpose they were always continuously cutting the timber from the global south, from Africa, from America, from India. And this timber went into the making of bigger and bigger, ships, both mercantile and navy battleships and so on. So this colonialism, which is an outcome of the kind of industrialization that preceded that, uh, the European countries, instead of using their knowledge of science and technology for the welfare of the planet Earth and the people, they started exploiting that knowledge or converting that knowledge into weapons, and that is how colonialism, they were able to conquer and became a reality. When Gandhiji raised this voice on behalf of the colonial people, on behalf of the suppressed, the marginalized, the displaced, and the oppressed, slowly but steadily, the people in throughout the colonies of the world, almost in all the continents, they started realizing, and gradually they were sensitized and educated, and there was a global concern and ultimately a global struggle against the exploitation of different countries by one or two countries of Europe. This is missed in most of the what we call political parlance in this country. We tend to oversimplify Gandhi. Gandhiji inspired people's struggles in America. Martin Luther King is a standing testimony. And even today, we have Robert Bullard, one of the great professors in sociology, who is continuously giving lectures on environmental injustice. Today, we notice there are Gandhians in most of the European countries, in Britain, in France. Everybody pays tributes to Gandhiji, not because of the person, but because of the ideas. Gandhiism basically means self-reliance. Gandhiism means that we try to live our lives within the known source of income or within the known resources that we have in the village. That is why, as rightly pointed out by Subba, Panchayat Raj, it's not Panchayat Raj, local governments at the rural level, they become very, very crucial. And India has been a great leader when it comes to democratic decentralization, people coming together, discussing and taking decisions. Even today, thanks to 73rd and 74th Amendments, the local governments are technically protected. But as already explained earlier in different lectures, it is the state governments which are acting as the villains, and the local governments are being simply suppressed and incapacitated. They are not given funds. The check powers are withdrawn, powers are not transferred. The State Election Commission and the State Finance Commission, they are virtually dysfunctional. As a result, the constitutional remedies that have been provided for the protection of the local governments, they are not effective. And when certain issues go to the court and when finally the Supreme Court or the High Court give orders in favor of the people and local governments, they are simply ignored by the state governments, and thereby we see the exploitation of the people on the lines of colonial, as we were exploited during the British Raj in this country. That continues. Frankly speaking, friends, as as we take this subject, as we go very deep into this subject, we tend to realize that people in this country have not gained independence. There was only a transfer of power from the British to a selected few in Delhi. We have a constitution. The original intentions of the constitutions were excellent, but then we see that the constitution hardly operates. The freedoms and the guarantees that we are assured in the constitution, they don't become reality. And everywhere though technically, on paper we can say that India became free on the midnight of 14th and 15th August. It is nice and it's a feel-good experience. We think we are free. Where are we free? Our media is not free. Freedom of press and expression, our right to express, that is not free. Universities don't have autonomy. Local governments are suppressed. And everything is now concentrated in the office of the Chief Minister, CMO, and the Prime Minister's office. CMO and PMO, it is nothing but an example of concentration of power. So we have not technically, though the Britishers have gone, still that exploitation continues. Let me tell you, friends, what is the big logic of continuing in Commonwealth? Can anybody answer? Is the Commonwealth reminds us of our slavery to the British Raj. And after 75 years, we continue to be foolishly in that Commonwealth. Whose Commonwealth it is? The British have looted the colonies in trillions of dollars or pounds. And we are poor because of their loot. Yet we are loyal to the Commonwealth. What the hell it is? It is important that the people realize and revolt and quit Commonwealth. It's not just that. We also need to realize that we the people in this country, we need to be conscious of the fact that corporates have entered the arena and they are controlling every field of activity. Corporate control over education, over health, over food chains, every marketing, everything is under the control of the corporates. Who is free in this country? So, having said these words, I just wish to go through the 17 goals and occasionally comment and connect to Gandhiji. The first one is, of course, no poverty. And here, we need to recall Gandhiji's how he perceived the poor. He saw divinity even in the poor. He saw Gandhiji perceived divinity even in the poor. That is why he called them the Daridra Narayan. So God is everywhere. The godliness, or in other words, the goodness of human being, it is there. Once we are a human being, all of us are deemed to be good. And the poorest of the poor, what is their fault? They have been exploited not only during the British Raj, but earlier also. So many people came from Central Asia, and in the name of religion, they have captured Delhi and all the sultanates and the Mughals and the Nizam. And this went on and on and on. People were deprived, and actually, the people of India were compelled to go to the forest areas and to their small little hamlets and villages. In fact, I can tell you that the behavior of the Indians was like amoeba. Amoeba withdraws itself into its what it folds itself whenever it sees a hostile environment. The people of India also, during the last say approximately 800-900 years, and after the British came, it was more evident that we had to withdraw. We were forced to withdraw and take shelter in our small little abodes in the villages or in the forest. That is why when you look at the Adivasi population of India, they are the people who were living in the forest, and technically they were not under the Britishers or under the Muslim rule. That is why they still represent the real India, because they are still free. They were never enslaved by the conquering armies. Unfortunately, that being the situation, I wish to point out that the poor have not been empowered after independence. In fact, they have become even more poor because, as rightly pointed out by Subba, the people have lost their common property resources. The grasslands are out, the forest areas are minimum. People were living on the forest because the forest was almost like a fruit basket. It was like a food basket for the great majority of the people who were living in the forest and also living on the periphery of the forest. For everything, because I come from a village which is just on the periphery of the Nallamala, we always lived on the forest. For everything, we used to go to the forest. It is not just firewood. Our cattle would be there. The cattle of the farmers, thousands and thousands of cattle would be there in the forest, and all the grass that is there. Because when it rains, there is a lot of water, and the cattle would live on it, and for nearly 8 to 9 months, and they would come back to the villages. At that time, particularly when there is no shortage of water and drinking water in the forest, these cattle return to the villages where they would stack, all the hay or the crop residue to feed these cattle for 2 to 2.5 months. And when it rains, again the cattle would go back to the forests. Unfortunately, this mechanism is not functional today. The number of cattle have come down. And in the name of development in this country, mechanized slaughterhouses have been set up because exporting beef is also considered as development by the foolish parties that we have in this country. What are they exporting? They are exporting the living tools of farmers, because cattle are the living tools of farmers. In fact, it is cutting at the sustainability of the farmers to a great extent. And all the political parties are agreed on it, and they are making it extremely difficult because they are working to the tunes of the corporates, even in this matter of exporting beef. There are umpteen number of cases. Poverty is directly linked to the availability of natural resources in a particular region. Now, all of us have, whenever we go to Vishakhapatnam, and in the Vishakhapatnam harbor, we see a conveyor belt that conveys or transports iron ore directly into the ships. And our foolish intellectuals, they think, looking at the conveyor belt, they think that India is developed. By exporting iron ore, are we not striking at the sustainability route? We are going to make it extremely difficult for generations to come in this country because they would be deprived of iron ore. Then who decided that we should export iron ore? Whose decision is it? And what price? People of India still do not know at what price we are exporting iron ore. And why should we export iron ore? We are 1 billion, 1.4 billion population. We have our own needs. Where is the need to export iron ore? So that this is, and the countries which are importing iron ore, they are wise enough. For example, China, Japan, Iran, they are simply taking from India and storing it for some remote time in the future. That is, they are storing for their future generations. Whereas we are striking at the root of the future generation, on the needs of the future generation. Anyway, that is only as an example. I would like to mention the next one, that is hunger. And here, friends, Gandhiji or Gandhian model of development will never encourage conversion of food grains into feed, conversion of food grains into feed to be fed to the poultry, right? Or to the cattle or sheep and everything. Why should invaluable food grains be converted, fed to the livestock and the birds? And why should we going for that kind of non-vegetarian food? Instead, we can as well eat the maize, for example. Maize is a wonderful example. A broiler chicken is fed for about 42 days. And during the 42 days, it would consume 3.5 kgs of maize. I'm quoting the World Resources book. 3.5 kgs. And on any single day in this country, millions of birds are cut. People enjoy chicken. But then why should they? Not at the cost of invaluable food grains. Food grain conversion into feed should be banned. Now the government is going further. They want to convert food grains into alcohol, ethyl alcohol, and for that they want to use paddy in millions of tons of paddy. They want to convert to millions of tons of ethyl alcohol. Is it necessary? That's the point. Why should everybody be burning ethyl alcohol? Can't we go in for a wonderful public transportation system? A public mass transportation system, if it is in place, then dependence on private cars will come down. That means this conversion will not be necessary. So for every policy, we have to apply logic, cost effectiveness, environmental impact assessment, and so on. Anna? So then we go, the third one is good health. All of us have been a witness to pandemics. Gandhiji's biggest contribution was there in sanitation. in sensitizing the public community. Health was its priority. I'm happy that the United Nations, by including good health and well-being, which means even what we call the psychological well-being. It also includes mental well-being, and here this also is a wonderful tribute to Gandhiji. Then the fourth one is education. Here, in fact, if we look at his wonderful work described in Nai Talim. Nai Talim is the book which speaks about Gandhiji's vision of education. Now, here education means empowerment of the people, empowerment in the real sense, and of course, subject to the choice by the person. They need to be empowered, and ultimately they need to be given the right placement in society, depending upon their aptitude and their aspirations. Education has to be given as per the needs of the individual and society, and also the ecosystem. The fifth one is gender equality. It is now slowly India is moving in that direction, but there is tremendous discrimination, particularly by perverted males. As a result, we see very often we read in the papers about rape and killing of the girls and women. And we are just looking at the police to solve the problem may not be sufficient. People's participation in isolating the criminals and ensuring that punishment is given by the appropriate authorities. People's participation and cooperation should be there. Indifference by the people will only add to the crime. The sixth one is very well connected to environment, but this is access to water. And friends, please remember, this access to water should not be on the charity of the government. Government is nobody to give charity to the people. People have a right to clean water, safe water, right? Because water is a very important aspect in right to life, right to livelihood, right to health. Without water, there is nothing. And government is only a servant of the people. That is why people should only demand, not beg. Because it is their right to health, survival, livelihood, and so on. The farmers should demand, and the government should not speak a language. For example, we see political parties coming to Mahbub Nagar and telling, మేము మహబూబ్ నగర్ను దత్తు తీసుకుంటాం. Who the hell is the government to take adopt? Government is the servant of the people. Whatever దత్తు తీసుకొని, and water is the right of the people. So this attitude is very important. And you please look at the attitude of the ruling party. Dattu తీసుకుంటాం అంటే that is a colonial language. The Britishers, they would say that it was, we had no choice. We had to go in for colonialism because we considered it as a white man's burden. Educating, we had to conquer, educate, sensitize them, civilize them. That's what they were saying. And they spoke as if it was their white man's burden, ante వాళ్ళ burden. So this colonial language of the ruling parties, particularly parties which are dynasty based, Gandhiji never pushed his family into politics, his children into politics. And what goes in the name of Gandhi in this country as India's prime political family, that is a misnomer. That is Nehru family. Nothing to do with Gandhi family. But then they adopted and they have cheated the people over years because Gandhi is a charismatic name. Okay, we go further. Decent work and economic. Sorry, the seventh one is affordable and clean energy. Here also, a decentralized way of producing electricity. Decentralized, absolutely. Ekkada lakkada. They have to come together. They need to harvest the solar, wind, geothermal, tidal, wherever possible, depending upon the local condition, bioenergy. Or not only these, but several other ways. The whole world has to come together and try to find solutions to the ever increasing greenhouse gases and its impact on climate change. So, climate change, as now the UN is talking, recently they adopted an action plan known as LIFE. LIFE, LIFE means lifestyles for environment. LIFE, life, they need lifestyles for environment. And that means that the lifestyles of everybody on the planet Earth, we have to continuously try to reduce our carbon footprint. We need to monitor our lifestyle, and we need to go in to simplify it, reduce the carbon footprint, and try to live in harmony with the people in this country. Friends, as we go further, we come to decent work and economic growth. Here again, sometimes I feel very sad when we look at the Telangana State Public Service Commission or the UPSC. When they advertise, for example, 20 jobs, you find at least 200,000 applications coming. And the governments collect a lot of application fee. They conduct some kind of an examination, and again, there is hardly any transparency. And at most, even if assuming everything goes right, only 20 jobs are created. But that is not the purpose. Right job for the right person. Because right to work is everybody's fundamental right. And here again, they don't have to look to the government for charity. They should get that right, that work as a matter of right. So here there is a concept. The government has to create growth engines. What they talk about growth engine is only to satisfy the corporate needs. Government of India has set up IITs. They have gone in for, if we look at the whole country, we have thousands of engineering colleges, polytechnics. But again, in all these places, we don't see the technologies which are really needed by the poorest of the poor to continue to make their living in the ecosystems they are located right now. The people, the farmers, and the other professions in the villages, with simple, small little technological innovations, they would be able to produce more and in a better way and improve their living. So anyway, we go to the next one, industry, innovation and infrastructure, same thing. Here there is a word I wish to explain, that technology should be appropriate to the people and to the ecosystem. That is why today the world is not discussing simply technology for technology's sake, but they are discussing technology which is appropriate. That is, today we call it as appropriate technologies. Not that every technology per se is good, but the technology should be relevant to the people and to the ecosystem. Then reducing income disparities is absolutely Gandhian. The next two items are very, very important. Reducing income disparities between the rich and the poor. Gandhiji always had pleaded for a more balanced society where the gap between the rich and the poor would not be in multiples, because that would spoil the human relations. The third thing, after that, we come to sustainable cities, which is it is now important that since urbanization is a global phenomenon, and when millions of people live at a particular in a concentrated fashion, they generate a lot of waste, sewage, and they're going for industries. Therefore, they generate effluents, and naturally, garbage is generated everywhere. But it's important to note that the way we dispose of them, that also is very significant, because what is happening right now in India is that the garbage dump yards are located adjacent to the places where the poorest of the poor live. I can give an open challenge to the government of India and to all the state governments and the municipal corporations. Come on, if they have guts, let them submit a map of the siting of these garbage dumps, and let them also give the kind of population that is there. We have a lot of examples in Hyderabad city where the government has it has taken up a single bedroom or two bedroom apartment, and adjacent to that they have created mass garbage dump yards. They have no respect for the poor, and this phenomenon was highlighted by Robert Bullard in America, and he used the word environmental injustice. And that is what is happening in this country. It is not just garbage dump yards. Look at the STPs that are generated. Look at the rivers that are there. The other day we were discussing rivers and their right to exist. What is the status of the rivers in this country? Can do political parties have the guts to give a objective? We call it as a white paper on the status of the rivers of this country. And who are the people who are living on the rivers? It is always the poorest of the poor, either the farmers or the fishermen. They live on the banks of the river. They are dependent on it. The point is that they are absolutely dependent on the quality of water that flows in the river. Now, if that quality of water is poison, if it is stinking, look at the case of Musi River, right from Vikarabad to the point where it joins River Krishna. Absolutely, the river is dead, it is poisoned, and how many times expert committees have come up about the water quality reports. Antibiotics are flowing in the river. The other day, we noticed hazardous drugs, narcotics being located in Durgam. Friends, this is a very serious issue. If antibiotics are flowing in Mosi, and not only several heavy metals are there, maybe people are developing Minamata disease, mercury pollution, or some other heavy metal getting into the bloodstream. There is no scientific study. We have so many engineering colleges. The other day, the government was saying, oh, we have a medical college. We are going to establish a medical college for every district. That means every medical college will have a SPM, Social and Preventive Department, Community Medicine Department. But do they have the freedom to really go out and check on the community's health? What is the quality of air that the people are breathing, the water they drink? You know, in Nalgonda, their own groundwater they can't drink, and if they drink, they will get fluorosis stricken. Elsewhere also, it is the same problem. What is the quality of water that flows through the pipelines for which people pay, or whether it is the Metro Water Works or what is being given in the name of Mission Kakatiya or Mission Bhagirath? These are all very, very critical issues. The and that affects millions of lives. People's kidneys are affected, liver is affected. Finally, they end up with all kinds of tumors and cancers, and the family, ultimately becomes is orphaned, and it's a very pathetic situation that in this country nobody questions. Even we have lost the faith in Gandhian technologies of protest. People have forgotten Gandhiji was trying to sensitize the people, convert the people into responsible citizens. But this very important lesson we forgot. Okay, reducing in after that we come to sustainable development. Okay, responsible. This is the very important. We are discussing this topic today, and for the last 2 days, one supermarket of a very big global chain, Lulu chain, has been opened. Earlier also, what is that big furniture shop in Banjara Jubilee? So
IKEA.
they also, yeah,
IKEA.
IKEA,
IKEA,
yeah, IKEA. Now look
IKEA
at the
Lulu.
mark. Yes, IKEA Lulu. And also there is one more point. People, this indicates, that we the people have lost certain citizenship values. It indicates a pathetic situation where they want to be the first one to enter the shop, purchase everything on the first day itself. Just because some people have some access to money, right? And they want to be there and purchase, they want to go on a purchasing spree and try to purchase everything only to show that they have this purchasing power, and they went to these malls and they purchased. For this show kind of behavior of the citizens, this approach is not correct. We, the people, should learn to live within our known sources of income. This is the most fundamental thing. Since our known source of income is limited, we should organize our lifestyle according to that. What is happening in contemporary India is definitely not in good taste. Friends, we go further and we come to the goal
Climate
number
action.
13, climate remediation. 13 is one, goal which can provide jobs to millions of people in this country, provided these millions are given some skill development which will enable them to connect to solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, geothermal, bio. Because climate remediation basically means going in for renewable sources of energy. In addition to that, afforestation. Now, again, we should not be planting trees in the forest. The simple method is that we, that is Homo sapiens, and our goats, if we don't enter the forest, allow the forest to regreen itself or restore itself, that particular ecosystem would automatically get repaired. It is foolish, Sometimes we see ministers going into the forest to plant a sapling. That is photography session. That is not the way to do it. Allow the forest to. We here, I wish to just recall in Telangana, there was a concerted attempt of the government of Telangana to destroy 3,000 trees around KBR Park, which is a national park. I appreciate the citizens of Hyderabad for having taken it to their heart, and they came together, they waged a peaceful struggle, went to the court, got a stay, and ultimately, that KBR Park is now protected. Similarly, for all for climate remediation, this also means that we protect all our water bodies, entire country. There's no doubt. My friend recently visited the Himalayas, and he's an authority on source water management, Subba, and he is a witness to the devastation that is going on wherever these rivers originate. And all this is happening because of not only of the foolishness of the ruling parties, but also their quick readiness to be sold out to some corporate. That is why we notice not only in India, globally, political parties have become the running dogs of the corporates. Then after that, we come to the protection of biodiversity, that is life in water and life on land. Uh, this it's a very big subject, but it's important that we notice that we are not the only species who are for whom this earth is very important. This earth is full of life. In fact, it is impossible to estimate the variety or the diversity of life that is there, that used to exist and now existing still to a great extent. Though we are losing species at a very fast rate. I wish everybody watches David Attenborough's Our Planet series on the Netflix and try to understand where are we going. Goal number 16 is the most important goal. We have discussed this many times. This is peace, goal number 16, peace and justice. In addition to this, rule of law, which means that we should go in for strong institutions. What is strong institution? Rule of law means application of rules should be the same for everyone. It is not that some people get more attention of the judiciary. That kind of publicity-oriented thing, that is not required in this country. Everybody is equal before the law. And once the judgment is given, it should be applied. It should be implemented. There should be a time limit of 24 hours, at the most 48 hours. I still don't understand how come Supreme Court orders are not implemented in this country. That means we don't have strong institutions. We have the institutions that we have created are simply loyal to the Chief Minister or to the Prime Minister. And this is not democracy. As a professor in political science, we are trained to describe democracy and ensure that we function as per the rules of the game. And here the rules are the Constitution of India. So here when we talk about democracy, we are talking about equity, justice, peace, equal participation, and democracy at multiple levels, at the national level, at the state level, and at the people's level, that is at the grassroots level. And here the best example I always give is about Hyderabad GHMC. 150 corporators. They are they are supposed to be the Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation. Only in namesake it is greater, and these people don't even have the power to appoint their police commissioner or the municipal commissioner or the director general, whoever is heading the Metro Water Works. They have no control on anything. And they don't protest. The beauty is that all these 150 corporators, they don't even know, they probably are totally unaware of the Constitution. And they see these were created to ensure that the right people come together and take decisions. 150 members, what the hell they are doing? Anyway, and the same thing is in the villages, they are not allowed to function. And lastly is partnerships, because this is where I told you Gandhiji is stepping out of the train at Champaran. You know what, that particular day, Gandhiji established a partnership with the people of this country. Till then, the known political figures, they were all great. I am not questioning their intention. They could not connect to the suffering of the people. Tilak used Vinayak Chauthi or Ganesh Puja, and in fact, he went wherever the puja was there and talked to the people. And indirectly, he was sensitizing them, educating them about uh, the need to be free. But he stopped at that point only. 1920, Tilak died, and thereafter Gandhiji was accidentally, because he already was into it, because he had the experience in South Africa connecting to the problems of the people. So Champaran can be described as Gandhiji entering into a partnership with the people. And this partnership becomes real because when you identify with the people in their suffering, it is only then the people will trust, and they joined Gandhiji. And thereafter we see another struggle in Gujarat where Sardar Patel was leading. Gandhiji went there also, and Gandhi and Sardar Patel, with the help, they connected to the people. These are two wonderful cases where the leaders connected with the people, stood by the people in their hour of crisis, and gave confidence to them. That is why people followed Gandhi. Gandhi becomes a democrat from that point of view. He is the first Indian political elite to have connected to the people. And people recognize Gandhi. If the leaders, the same problem today. We have so many political parties. In spite of the media and the social networking, I don't see any leader who is really connected to the people, particularly the dynasty based political parties. They live in their ivory towers, and every day they pledge so many things, and nothing really percolates down to the people. That is why there is a mismatch between the aspirations of the people and the performance of political parties. I thank my friend Subba Garu and Shiva Prasad Reddy because Shiva is, I remember this very famous quotation Swami Vivekananda mentioned. There is Shiva in every Jiva. So Shiva Prasad Reddy is very important. He is the one who brings action. Uh, so while appreciating his role, and Subhana, my like what I can say in the field of environment, we have been together walking for nearly 40 years on the road to sustainability. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much, sir.
Wonderful.
It's a wonderful narration of the SDGs looking through the Gandhian lens. And I feel, that we need to organize uh, in small, uh, taking 17, not at a single strike, but in 3 or 4 episodes, we should come out. In fact, I was expecting that Professor Purushotham Reddy, came out with some kind of a formula to remember the SDGs. It is poverty, health, poverty, hunger, and health. Something like with some cricket thing he used to. First five are with the human issues, and then the resources issues, and then the question of development issues, and then institutions and partnership issues, if we look at. So we need to go for a continuous series taking these things because this subject is much more relevant not only in achieving in 2030 but also people should realize, citizens should realize its importance and countries progress in SDGs before the elections so that they can set some landmarks for the aspiring political parties on SDGs. It is not merely, and I could also lay my hand on 2019 and 2023 consolidated SDGs report. Soon we will come out with the summary of them, and then we will have a series on SDGs, how we should look as Indians.
I
Thank you so
totally.
much. Thank you, Dr. Shiv Prasad, once
Okay,
again.
one minute.
Anna,
In
చెప్పండి.
fact, what Subhana mentioned just now, that is needed. That will our book or books, whatever we intend to do, that will be a practical guide for several countries in the world. Because there are a lot of people, whenever the people have a thirst for information on Gandhiji, and if we can provide a practical handbook and also try to explain all the SDGs in the format just now mentioned by Subba, I think that will make things easy because let us realize that not all the countries are at the same level of social development or educational development, and we have to help them. Just as Gandhiji inspired the work, so also right now his work shall continue to inspire, but we need to, at periodic times in the long march of history, we need to do our little bit because the planet Earth requires this. It is not sufficient only if India is, suppose if all the Indians are one and they unite and they do their bit, even then climate change cannot be addressed. So it has to be a global movement, and I appreciate Subbarao Garu and his initiative to take it
Thanks,
further.
Anna. And one more thing, take home I got from your narration is 92 came, the sustainable education for sustainable development. But today, very interestingly, you came out with highlighting education for commons. Okay. What makes the people to come together? You see, everybody was talking on our commons. But our commons we cannot create, we cannot protect, we cannot conserve unless people find their role and responsibility in our commons. So, this also gave me an idea developing an handbook for education for commons,
Yes,
Wonderful.
which may cut across all the geopolitics.
Yes.
So, we need to this education for commons and looking SDGs through Gandhian lens is another handbook which we can plan it out. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Shuprasad.
Yeah, yeah. Just 1 minute. I think this would be an audio visual presentation, which will be the best. And this link, any country can take it away, and not only that, every state here. I think state government also, because both I said education is or the social conservationist or the way you have been trying to make common the commonest of the commons to understand that rights, resources, At the same time, the equitable distribution of wealth or participation of the commonest of the commons in sustainable development and the goals as you have narrated. I think that will be the best take away from this show, and that too in the true Gandhian perspective, non-violent way. And he very clearly says, hey Ram, he says wherever he goes, sabko sammati de Bhagavan. And what a better way, what a better way, that Gandhian philosophy of peace. And as he rightly pointed out by Anna, the partnerships, first you need to have union of people, that untouchability which he took up on his own. And as Subbarao pointed out, social preventive medicine, which he clearly states, and our own indigenous way of healing, everything is there. Everything is there in our villages in this great country. Likewise, every other country too, they have their own resources. The only thing is, rightly said, first the partnership of the people, that union of the people, along with the resources, and for which they need to understand the basic rights. Because Anna always keeps me reminding, resources belong to every citizen. And he clearly says, Prime Minister to Chief Minister, they're all public servants. You demand and get everything done. Until and unless you understand these rights, that fear goes away. Then your rights over resources, and so beautifully you can connect to all these sustainable development goals. They should be in the largest public interest only, understanding that the present, if it is safeguarded, the future for our kith and kin will be very stable, and they can always relax and enjoy the wonderful world. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much hosting you. And this is an exhaustive one, and I was literally enjoying every bit of it. I always appeal to the viewers, we cannot make a show in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour. When I have such the biggest of the biggest minds appearing on the show and dwelling on such topic which concerns every human, whether it is Telangana, India, or across the globe. It is eternal. When such show happens, we cannot limit. And that is why I keep on telling anyone can download, and you really watch it, enjoy it. That is why I said this is a treatise and DRTSPR channels. And as a host, I'm very fortunate to listen to such great minds. Every now and then, when people say politicians, when they want to say, why don't you do our show? We will fund you. I said, sir, namaste. These are the treasures of information and knowledge. You say that data is the king. That knowledge is being provided by these two greats. And again, thankful to them. Subanna ido చెప్పబోయారు.
My suggestion is, today's elaborate narration. I wish you connect this to UPSC aspirants.
Yes, I shall.
That will be an ideal gift to the UPSC aspirants. What I feel. Okay. Thank you so much.
Definitely, I'll tag them. I will tag them once we try to upload. Thank you very much, sir. Do support
Thank
DRTSPR
you.
channel, Citizens DRTSPR channel, and Environment People DRTSPR channels. They are all in larger public interest only. Thank you very much, sir.